Welcome to California.
Yeah, thank you. California is cool and warm and sunny. We're doing a podcast in real life.
Yeah, it took a while for this to actually happen.
Yeah, we've met multiple times in real life and haven't done a podcast, so now we're doing it.
Why are you here?
Why am I here? Oh. Well, I'm here because Josh and I have been secretly, or not so secretly, working on a project for the past year and a bit.
It's been a secret, but people have been leaking
If
it.
you're thinking, you probably guessed something is going on. But yeah, we started working on a project last summer, which is when I was here before.
Yep. Came down for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been working on an album, and all the little bits are slowly coming together and being finalized. And I had to come down here to film a bunch of the assets, the videos, get the pictures, all the stuff that we can't do over the internet.
Right. Yeah, which we did that once with Traveler, kind of tried the two separate locations in one video thing. It's
Yeah.
not my favorite thing to do.
I think Traveler is like as far as we could have pushed that. Like the videos look similar. Like the guitars are the same. Like we kind of, you did all the editing and the coloring to have the sort of consistent look. And also we did Traveler like right at the beginning of the COVID. So
yeah,
that's kind of what it had to be.
that was kind of like the test to see how we would work together.
Yeah.
And then just how songs would be written and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Although, if you remember, we definitely tried to write something like at least 2 times, maybe 3 times before we wrote Traveler.
yeah,
Like we tried. Writing on the internet is dumb. It's the hardest way to write music is with someone else over the internet.
yeah, we should kind of get into that because I don't like doing it.
Me neither.
We kind of figured out a little bit of a workflow, which we could get into.
Well, I think we should just start by saying like, I've never been able to write a song over the internet. Traveler is the only one that worked. And I think it's because we kind of had like, it was kind of a little bit of a joke. Like it's like, oh, like how many metric modulations can we put in a song?
Yeah.
And then every time we would write ourselves into a corner, it's like, okay, like how do we modulate out of this one? That was the sort of the recurring solution, which is necessary for songs. It's like, okay, like where do I go now? So for this one, it was kind of obvious. So it worked out.
Right.
But every time it's been less obvious of an answer, the song just ended up being a minute long and not working out. Not just with you, but every time I've tried to write like that in the past with other people too, it's just never really worked out.
Yeah, it takes like a discipline thing and then for the other person to care enough.
Yeah. And so even though Traveler kind of worked out formatting and, like with the idea and sort of the intent of the song, it was still like 2 weeks of work, maybe a month of work where we would just spend hours on Skype doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the night.
Right. And it's really hard to like bounce ideas off of another person
Yeah.
over Skype.
I remember we would like mute each other and then like work on something and then like come back like half an hour later and then just like have something worked out.
Right.
Which is crazy that we had the patience to do that.
Well, like you said, it was like COVID, so no one was really doing anything.
Yeah, it was just like, it was perfect timing. Like I'm happy that song worked out because it worked out really well. I'm really happy with what that song is. But yeah, so like the juxtaposition would be that we wrote that song in like a month, spending hours on Skype, and then I came down here, and before noon on my first day here last summer, we had a song written.
Right. We wrote By High.
We wrote By High in like a few hours, and then we went to go get lunch.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's taken a lot for that to become what it is now.
Well, writing a song and then doing all the producing and finalizing all the stuff to me is like different. Like we had written the song in an abstract way, like the skeleton of the song, and then the rest of the stuff that took
like we had the chords and the accents, but we didn't really have the sounds.
Yeah. I mean, also, but some of the other songs we wrote during that time were more concrete. Like when we did Sell Low, that kind of came together.
Yeah.
Right. Or the Um, Pop 2 also.
Yeah.
I
Also,
should- I
these,
should-
these
I should-
songs might be different names.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, I think some stuff will have been more concrete and concretized, like the names of songs and
the
band names
the
and
name of the band.
a lot of different things. So you can guess which song.
Yeah, Pop 2
Yeah, well,
is...
you could say which one Pop 2 is. Basically, I came down and in 2 weeks we wrote like 6 songs, and then we had to finalize them on our own. And we did, and that took us a couple months because the stuff that we had to finalize was melodic stuff and sort of impactful stuff.
Right. So we didn't write any like lead parts. It was just all rhythm stuff.
We might have written a couple, but
I know
mostly,
on Sell Low we had like some lead
Yeah.
stuff, but a lot of it we didn't.
Yeah, there was Not Financial Advice we wrote that
the
melody.
lead line, yeah, the melody.
And there might have been a couple other places, but everything that it was like, okay, this is your spot to sort of express yourself, or like, oh, like we need like a shred moment here, or like a more like feel moment
Yeah.
here. Those were kind of done on our own time to be put together into the demo session afterwards.
We were also pretty clear, like we don't want just solos the whole time.
Yeah,
So a lot of stuff is just like more melodic,
yeah.
lead line based.
I think about it like verses, like if we were rappers.
Yeah.
Right, like, oh, this is my verse, and then we kind of like, yeah, that's cool. There's some solo moments, though.
Yeah.
Some solo
But we
moments for
made sure like we didn't just do that the entire time.
Yeah,
So that like when those moments happen, it's a bit more impactful.
absolutely.
You know.
So yeah, but it's very interesting. Also, going back to the sort of how difficult it is to do things, how we wrote so much together, and how it took so much longer to sort of finalize the demos.
Right.
Yeah, like
Because we wrote the skeleton of everything in like a week or 2 weeks. And then how long did it take to where we are now?
maybe like 3 or 4 more months. I think stuff was finalized in December, and then we started recording for
Right.
real recording.
Right. So we did full produced demos first and then re-recorded everything to the final.
Yeah, but that's a separate whole thing. Like, why do you think it took us so long to write all this stuff, other than having different life stuff and not having like being reminded every day that we have to do it because we're not in the same country and stuff.
Why did it take so long to get now or to get where we finished the demos?
Finish the demos.
For me, it was like trying to find the right idea and not just like forcing it.
Right.
And then also the songs are hard.
Songs are hard.
And like, you could do the thing where you just play a bunch of 16th notes. But I don't know. I felt like we wanted something a little bit different than that. A little bit different than what the genre generally is. Even though there's definitely a lot of prog elements.
Yeah, it's definitely a progressive album.
And then you're right with like just life stuff,
Yeah, I also had a few moments, especially in the winter, where I was like really having a hard time being motivated to work on it. But I pushed through that and got it done. That also came up a lot when we were actually tracking.
Tracking's hard.
Tracking is hard, and it was
Yeah.
a lot of guitar parts to retrack, a lot of rhythm stuff that was really challenging.
And then part of it, I think why it's so hard is that where we're doing these at home. And so we can do something like, a million times till we get it like perfect. We're not renting out a studio to where there's a time limit and there's a budget.
I like that though. I don't want to have that extra stress of having to perform like within an hour or whatever.
No, I like it too. And then all the parts end up being better than they would be at a studio anyways.
Yeah. I think if we were renting a studio and tracking ourselves, that would be the sort of the balance between being on a schedule and then not having the stress. Because I feel like I'm more stressed if someone else is tracking me. Like I want to look at the transients. I want to look at the transients and I want to comp myself. You know what I'm saying? Like if I decide like I want to move something like just back a little bit, like I want to just do it and move on. I don't want to like the guy to be like, oh, that was great, man. And then he does it behind my back. Like I just want to be
Right.
You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like I want to be responsible for my own guitar parts at the way, just because I've been doing that for so many years now.
I mean, there's also the stuff where maybe the audio engineer doesn't know that that's not what you want it to sound like.
Exactly. If I want to lay back somewhere, like I know what I want.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it takes a long time to develop a relationship with an engineer like that, and I just don't have that with anyone.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
that's another thing. We tend to do everything ourselves.
Yeah. I think we could probably track each other if we were in a situation like that.
Yeah.
Like
that'd
that
be
would
fine.
be probably something, you know, so I could focus on playing instead of comping,
Yeah.
because we were both on a similar wavelength in terms of what we like.
Which we did that a
guitar-wise.
bit when you came over and we
Yeah.
recorded the demos.
Yeah, but tracking for real is different than creative tracking. So I guess we'll find out when we find out.
Yeah. When we get a budget and a label to give us money.
No
please.
chance. Rip.
Give us money.
Give us money, please. But yeah, so that brings us to about December, or rather January of 2022, when we first started tracking the rhythms, and we tracked rhythms for about a few months. I think we were kind of done the rhythm guitars like in like March or April, something like that.
Right. Well, because we finished them for drums. We wanted to get all the drum stuff before we tracked
Yes.
leads.
Yes.
Right?
Although I think we talked to Troy before we sent him over stuff, because I had updated him. We talked to Troy, and he was learning the tracks with the demos, and then when we were done
That's
rhythms,
right.
I sent him updated everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did all the rhythms to about April, May, maybe April. I forget exactly. It's a blur. And then we tracked most of the leads. Then you came to Montreal, and then I had a couple things to finish, which I finished right when you left, and that was all the recording.
Yeah. So maybe we should talk about the process of getting other people to play the parts. Because we got Jacob Umansky on bass.
Yeah,
Amazing. He's the homie. He's great.
Yeah, Jacob's
and
the
then
man.
Troy Wright on drums.
which is truly a blessing.
Yeah. So like
Like-
this combination of like two guitars and then Troy and Jacob, I think is super sick.
Yeah, and it's actually, I've had to explain this to a few people, and every time they're just kind of just like, what? That everybody in this project was recording remotely.
Right.
And it's kind of just like, it's kind of crazy, the organization and how much we each had to individually have our shit together. Like even something as so basic as like making sure that like the stuff you recorded would work with the stuff that I would record.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out like we just did DIs for everything, because that kind of made stuff simpler, like workflow wise. Like it would have been a bit ridiculous if we actually tried to record tones. Like I would have had you like try with different IRs.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough redundancies, so it would be easier to just make the tone after the fact.
Yeah.
And even your DIs like were very different than my DIs, like headroom wise.
Yeah.
But I just did your guitars different than mine. And then I would just match the tone after the fact. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. And I kind of like how throughout the album you can't. I mean, if you know our playing really well, you probably could. But
Yeah.
like in general, you kind of can't tell who's doing what.
There's some subtle differences of tone in the lower gain stuff, but in the higher gain stuff, we're doing a similar thing. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's the two guitars that were different. And then Jacob basically took the programmed bass we had done, like the synths and then maybe some plug-in bass stuff, and he just kind of took it and made it his own, added a bunch of fills, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
He changed some bass notes, and he was asking me some things like, oh, like how are you thinking about this chord? Because I was thinking I could do this bass note or this bass note, and I was just like, yeah, man, like do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because I understand like the sort of different the different ways to interpret chords, and I was just like, do whatever you want, like make variations, like when the riff repeats, do it differently. Like I think I had like one note for him on one of the tracks where he kind of like, there was a weird time thing in Beware of Dog, other name drop. In Beware of Dog, the triplet-y thing at the end where it goes between 16th notes and triplets.
Yeah.
That was a bit weird on the first pass, and then I was like, oh, like notice this grid change, and then he did it, and then he fixed it.
Yeah.
But he's great, and everything he delivers is crazy, like crazy in tune, crazy sustain, played super well.
Yeah. I mean, we gave him very little notes
Yeah.
because we knew.
Yeah, like if we're hitting up Jacob, it's because we want Jacob.
Right. Yeah, Jacob and Troy, we both
Yeah.
knew that we liked their creative style, and so it made sense. We're not like giving him a ton of notes. Oh, play it like how we programmed. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really want that.
And we also had like very thorough meetings with both of them, like before we started, to make sure we were all on the same page, like the sort of stuff we like, stuff we don't like, sounds,
Yeah.
especially on the drums. I remember we had a big call talking about drum sounds
Right.
and like miking and sort of like snares and all that stuff, and that just worked out so well.
That's pretty crazy that he just did it all himself.
Yeah. Oh man, we need to have a Troy appreciation moment right now, because Troy learned the entire album and made it super, super sick and super his own. Even the couple tracks that like I had written a while ago that were, the drums were really intensely programmed with like a lot of phrases and a lot of like drum isms that like maybe a real guy would do differently.
Yeah.
He made completely his own. And there were pretty much no notes, maybe like a few here and there. But he just delivers something perfectly played with the kit, perfect tones. And
it's crazy.
It was crazy. It was insane. Actually insane. And
like neither of us were there for tracking.
No.
He just did it.
Which is crazy, because that's something that I was very anxious about. Like if it was any other situation where we would have gotten another drummer and had to rent a studio to track, I would have flown out easily, because like I'm too much of an asshole. Like I have to control everything. But I had heard what Troy had done in his studio and I was down. So it worked out very, very well. And like not only is it sick because he's sick, but because he recorded himself, it ends up being also cost effective, which is an important factor, unfortunately.
Recording drums is very expensive.
Recording drums is very expensive.
And difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And also another thing about Troy is that he hits fucking hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, so that all came together. When were you in Montreal? In July? Right? Yeah.
I was in July, but we started tracking leads before that.
Yeah, but I mean, I was saying the drums were started coming together in July.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. And then you came back to LA, and then everything all wrapped up, and I started mixing in August.
Yeah. We're still doing stuff. We're still figuring out synths and production stuff.
For reference, we are now in October, the end of October 2022. It's not like I've been mixing this whole time. Like I mixed the record, and then now we're like some tones that we're not sure about that we are switching out and trying different things, which is a luxury we have because we're doing everything ourselves.
And then like the guitar parts are finalized, so we're able to shoot videos and like do all the asset kind of stuff, which is why you said you're down here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we're shooting another one tonight.
Yeah, we're doing this podcast, and then we're going to shoot another video, another playthrough. It'll be sick. But yeah, what's another sort of important album process thing? Like what is hard? What was hard for you, Josh, during this process, whether it is a creative thing or a tracking thing or a performance thing?
I mean, tracking was by far the hardest part.
Leads or rhythms?
Probably leads. I think these are the most difficult leads I've ever written and played.
Yeah.
It's a lot of jumping around the fretboard and like a lot of stuff where I, in the demo, wrote it little bit by bit, and then for the actual track, doing it all at once, and then being like, oh, this is really freaking hard to play when I play it all at once.
Yeah, that's tough. I had a couple moments while tracking where I was like, what? I can't do this. Right. But then you do it, and then you're better for it. Yeah.
No, honestly, writing this album has changed some of my lead phrases and like maybe some patterns with my left hand and stuff that I wouldn't have done before. Because also this album is like maybe the first time in a long time where I've kind of sat down and wrote leads instead of just improvising them over and over until I like it, which, that's fine. But then you end up playing stuff that is not surprising.
That's true.
At least for me, where I'm at.
I didn't do that the whole time on this record. There's definitely some stuff that I was sort of half improvising, and then I would be like, "That's a good idea." Lead it to a next idea. Like the solo moments that I did were definitely that. Like the stuff that's not a sort of verse, but is like a solo.
Right.
I definitely did that, where I was like improvising until I kind of had the right vibe.
Yeah. I mean, I was improvising little sections until I like found the right thing.
Right.
But for something like Drip, like the solo, I definitely wrote that out.
Yeah.
There's no way I could improvise like that. For me, that weird of a line.
Yeah, but Drip kind of leans that way already because the song is so catchy and shreddy.
Yeah, a lot of accents.
I'm pretty happy with that one in terms of like how much melodic hooks there are between the shred moments.
Yeah.
I think that'll make that track like sort of stand out.
Well, we could talk about how like a couple of the songs you had already written, or at least had demos for, and then I had the Beware of Dog.
Yeah. So I went to LA in 2021 and we wrote 6 of the songs. 5?
5 of them.
5 of the songs.
Yeah.
And then I had an old demo from late 2020 that I wrote, like, you know, in a manic episode I had during COVID, called Drip, which I didn't feel good about a couple of my solos, so I was like, Josh, just make those parts your own, and then it worked out really well. Melodic wise, it added a lot. It was very static when it was just me the whole time for those areas. So having those different, the way you play differently than me in those areas, like really make the song, like,
it breaks it up a little bit.
It makes it worth listening. Like there's a payoff,
right. Yeah.
You know? So that was Drip. And then we had tried to write something which became Beware of Dog.
I already had
Beware you had
of Dog.
It. And then and
then we like edited some stuff and like changed stuff around a little bit.
You had showed me Beware of Dog because we were going to collab on it in a slightly different way. But it was in a pretty bare bones thing. But you had that idea with the 3s and the 5s and the sort of the triplet-y sort of thingamajig.
Yeah, like the 7 implied over 5.
Yeah, and then I think, and then we like figured out what else we could do with that concept, and then wrote more stuff on it. But that was definitely like something that you had before that album that we finished, and then there was one more that I had half written, like there's like 2 minutes of it. And
you had like some sections in Logic that were like separate.
For what? For Very Emotional?
For Very Emotional. Like you had like maybe a minute and a half of the song, and then you had like sections that you knew you wanted.
Yes. So for Very Emotional, which is another track that we didn't write entirely together, although we did work on it while I was here. I was like, oh, like I think it'd be cool if we put this song on the project, and then we kind of did some work on it. There was like I had like a verse and I had like the first minute and a half, 2 minutes of the song, and then some other stuff in 17. Right, because that's the thing. The song was in 17, so I had other ideas in 17 that weren't in the arrangement yet, and then we kind of put it together, and that worked out really well. Because the second half of the track, you kind of take over, and then it gets a bit more intense there.
Right. That one ended up being like one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that one's really cool. I really like the stuff you added, the stereo thing.
Oh yeah.
that is very emotional.
Yeah. That's the demo song name.
Yeah, demo song name. That's the name of the podcast episodes, demo song names.
Yeah. Those are always funny, hearing people's demo song names.
Yeah. But yeah, so 5 of the songs were written all together, and then we had little bits to sort of make it into an album, because EPs are lame. Not just kidding.
Well, we wanted like a bunch of songs I haven't released music in a while.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have like a release cycle that lasts a while.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is.
Yeah, it's actually cool looking back on it because we're so close to being done. But the whole time we've been working on this, we've been like way more quiet than we have been before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Like on the internet up until Traveler, like I feel like we were really doing a lot of stuff like regularly, trying to grow each other's sort of audience, you know, with the various avenues. And now I feel like this year we've just been quietly grinding an actual project with real substance.
Right. It's not like a
disposable
Instagram album,
and that's cool too.
Thing.
But it kind of hits in a different way. But you can't. It's hard to do both at the same time. Like I don't have my life together enough to like work on an album and then post a video once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, like. So that's been kind of the trade off. But so it's nice to like be so close to being in a period of my life where I'm dropping a lot of stuff for a long period of time.
Yeah.
That's gonna be. I'm really down to sort of be in my just drop tracks every couple months.
Right. I mean, we worked pretty damn hard on these. Like, I take it very seriously. It's not like we wrote this song in a week and dropping it.
No.
It's very much like we put a lot into it.
Yeah. I think maybe we could have done stuff faster if we were together the whole time. But what's important is that everything that we're doing, everything that is being done for every aspect of this record, which is, the songs and the assets and the sort of, the way we're going to drop things is being done properly. Like we're not cutting corners. I mean, corners are being cut, but I just mean like we're going to do stuff properly. Like it's not going to fizzle because we did something wrong at some point.
Right. Yeah. Like we've talked about aesthetic and talked about the whole idea of what the band is kind of thing. Yeah.
This is gonna be a strong release. If I can say so myself, being a part of the release.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be cool. Like it's not a throwaway. It's important. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. The good thing though about this taking so long is that like at this point I'm much better at things.
Right.
And like, just for example, I'm much better at video now
than
I was like a year ago, right? So if we did this album in like 2 weeks and then I had to do assets and stuff, they would not look anywhere near what they would now.
Yeah.
Not that I'm like the best at anything, but like
no, but it's
I'm competent.
Your skills. Yeah, I feel the same about production. I kind of went into a hole of production during the pandemic. I want to stop mentioning the COVID, but I kind of just like went in a hole and learned a lot of stuff that I did not know pre-2020 production wise. Like, and I feel really good about the sort of the sound that we've gotten. It's definitely like not like every prog record.
We got a lot of those sounds like out of the way.
Yeah.
Like last year or 2 years ago.
All the prog sounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of did all the prog sounds and I'm just like, okay, now I'm done. It's like the meme, like I'm done playing with weed now.
Yeah, so now with that we're doing all the production stuff, it's much more of our own vibe and like something different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, like we were looking for the vibe, trying different things for a while the past couple of years, and now we're like a lot more sure about what we want and what we like.
Right.
And how to do it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. What's the band name, Josh? What's the band name? Like, why is this such a struggle? This has been a struggle.
Yeah.
To find the biggest struggle of this whole project has been finding the band name.
It hasn't happened yet.
Which is weird because everything else is kind of coming together so well, even aesthetically and sort of sound wise, and the song names and the album name, but not the band name.
It's like too important of a thing to just.
It's too important to mess up.
Yeah.
So there's no band name right now.
Right.
And I'm honestly like not sure that we'll have a band name by the time this drops. No, we have to.
We would have to.
We have to. There's no way.
That'd be crazy.
There needs to be a band name. So you can in the comments you can be like, man, like you guys went with a shitty band name.
Right. And I mean, we wanted a band name and not just our names.
Yeah, because it would just hold the project together better than having sort of independent, separate pages or Spotify profiles and all that stuff. I think having the band, having this album come out under a project will sort of strengthen everything. And
it gives it its own like personality.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the type of stuff we want to do, optically, like in terms of optics, it works better with a band name than with having both of our names.
Right. Yeah.
What else is up, Josh?
We could talk a little bit about gear. I've recently gotten a bunch of new things.
Yes. What new things have you acquired?
Got some exciting.
It's all camera gear.
I've gotten camera gear. I've gotten too much freaking gear. So okay, we'll start music wise, right? So I found that I wanted a real amp. I've been using the Quad Cortex for a long time. I still use it all the time. It's great. But I find there's some situations where I just prefer to have a real amp. And those situations are when I'm playing in smaller places where there's no sound guy or there's no in-ears. There's a sound guy, but there's no in-ears. And I have to make decisions on the fly.
Right.
And like also having a real pedal board and having all the knobs and pedals laid out in front of me to where, okay, I'm playing this part. I don't love how that sounds. I'm going to adjust the pedal real quick. I'm not using a touch screen and diving into menus.
Right.
I find the Quad Cortex is perfect for if the show is like on rails or if it's like...
Or it's dialed at a high level.
Right.
Where stuff isn't changing very much.
Exactly, yeah. So I started finding myself in situations where I'm using the quad and like a power amp in a cab and I'm like, ooh, I don't feel comfortable like this.
Right.
So I got an amp.
What is the amp that you've acquired?
So I got the Mesa Boogie Fillmore 50. I knew I wanted something kind of medium gain-ish that like takes pedals in a way that I like. Because there's some amps where like you put an overdrive into it and like there's just too much high end and it turns to like this fizzy thing. And then there's also, I don't know how I could put it, if I could put it into words, but there's like a way that certain amps compress when you dig into them. That is important to me. I couldn't tell you what it is, but I just know it when I play it. And when I was trying out a bunch of amps, the Fillmore 50 kind of did it for me.
Yeah. Is it a 50 watt amp?
Yeah. So there's a switch on it though that lets you go half power.
Do you know what kind of tubes are inside?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Let me look.
Are those 6L6s?
It's probably 6L6s, yeah.
6L6s.
And then what I also really liked about the amp that I wish more amps did is that it has two like channels that are the same.
Yeah.
And it has the exact same controls for both. And then so I can set one how I like, set the other how I like, and then there's a foot switch to switch between the two.
That's sick. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so okay, I have this real amp now and then I'm like, okay, I need pedals again because I ended up selling a lot of pedals when I first got my Axe effects.
Right.
So maybe pulled some strings, hit some people up. I got the Tilt Overdrive, which I've been really enjoying. It's on my board.
Great pedal.
I have I did buy this one, but I got the Origin Effects Cali 76. Which is,
but you've had that for a while.
I've had that for a long time.
It's also it's the older generation 3-knob one.
Right. Which I'm a simple guy.
Yeah. The new one, I have the new one, and I know how compressors work, so I'm like down. But it's a lot of knobs if you don't know what the ratio does on a compressor. You know what I'm saying?
I just like simple stuff in general.
Yeah.
Like even on amps, I don't like when there's a ton of like switches. I love Wagner, but like
there's a lot of switches.
Dude, some of those amps.
Some of Mesa's amps too.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, that app it's a good app. It's a good app. And I agree with you about the way it compresses with the bounciness. I think it's a power section thing because amps will have the same tubes but feel differently. So I think it might have to be like the sort of like the transformer stuff, like the way the tubes are reacting per se, not the specific tubes.
Okay.
Because that's also something I look for personally with my amps, and I found for me that bounciness that I like is more of an EL84 thing.
Yeah, well, I do really like those amps that you have. The Dirty Shirley and the like those also do that for me.
Yeah.
I also got a new guitar.
Which one?
I have a Bossy Space T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sick.
Yeah, I was like, I want the most relic thing possible. And then the homie Ivan was like, I have one that would look like it went through a swamp. And I'm like, I'm down.
It does look sick and it plays very well. It sounds very great. It's got a lot of vibe.
Yeah, it's another. It's like a feel thing. It's a resonance thing of the wood.
Mhm.
Like even if you know, a lot of people argue you can't hear that stuff through an amp.
Cap.
Just feeling it in your hands makes a huge difference in
Yep.
if I like a guitar or not.
Absolutely. The resonance in here.
Right.
Mhm.
Which is why I also love playing my iconic Solana, because it does the same thing where it's like you have that snappiness.
Yeah. The direct instant feedback.
Yeah. So both those guitars into my pedal board, into my amp, and that has been a lot of fun.
It's a good rig. It's a good
Yeah.
rig. I have never used. I've used the Quad Cortex Live maybe like 4 times.
I use it all the time.
Yeah,
There's situations where I like it and situations where I don't.
for sure. I don't have those gigs where it's like, I think the predictable gigs,
Yeah.
right? Like all my gigs are very unpredictable in terms of like the things that I might be playing, the way I might be interacting with the band, like if I would like a volume boost or not at any given point in the set.
Yeah. That's another thing. I don't know how I feel about the quad volume boosting. I'm like afraid to clip it.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. I don't think you would actually clip it. Especially depends where you start, right? If you start hot,
Very true.
then there's nowhere to go. But yeah, it's not the same. I don't know. Personally, since I've been gigging again, like since the spring, I've kind of engineered my rig to be flexible, but also the sort of best thing that I have available right now. And yeah,
Yeah. Where are the jacks on your pedal board?
they're on the side.
I need that in my life.
Changes everything, man. But yeah, I have like a pretty simple sort of thing where I set an amp on a crunch and then I just boost more gain into it. And then
Yeah.
because I'm on the crunch, I use the effects loop and I just do delay reverb.
Yeah. I need to get effects loops in my life.
Yeah.
My jacks are not on the side, so
Yeah,
it's a little hard right now.
Very unfortunate. Man, those memes are hilarious. It's like, did you know my pedal board has the jacks on the side?
Yeah.
That's great. But yeah, I wanted to do the 2-channel thing, the two similar channels thing for a while. I was thinking of like buying one of the new Twin Sister amp.
Yeah.
I didn't have enough money for it though. So
I saw they came out with another.
yeah,
I don't know what that is.
Well, okay, here's what's funny. Is so okay, I have a pink taco and a mini Dirty Shirley.
Yeah.
In like a week ago, before I left, they came out with new versions for both of those amps.
Oh, and they renamed it.
Yeah, so there's a Pink Taco version 2, which I don't really care for that much because they revoice it slightly, and I really like the way mine is voiced right now, so that's fine. But the Little Sister, which is a much better name than the mini Dirty Shirley, has the bright switch that I want.
Oh.
So I feel a little bit stupid because I didn't buy mine that long ago, but I'm pretty sure I can send it to Dave and he'll mod it to put a bright switch in. So that's what I'm going to do at some point. But yeah, so it's kind of funny. I was like, I dropped that rig video, and then the day before I dropped it, both those amps got updated. But you know, separate from like the constant feel to having to buy new gear because you're in the guitar world and everything's always coming out, I feel great about my rig right now. Like it just feels really good.
Yeah.
I show up to gigs and I'm just like, wow, like this is the best tone I've had in my life.
We're both running around with like the best gear.
Yeah, I have to stop and reflect sometimes that like I'm playing my dream guitar into one of the best amps I could be using with like an amazing cab, and I got all these pedals and everything. So I'm very, very thankful because it's not just that it looks cool, it makes me feel good and it makes me play better.
Yeah. It's also the thing where it's like it's reliable. It's
reliable. Reliability is very, very important.
Yeah. And if you're trying to like do the things that you're doing, you need some stuff that's really high end.
Yep.
So that there's no barrier, like at this point, I was saying this with camera stuff, like if it's bad, it's our own fault.
Yeah.
We can't blame the gear on anything.
Yeah. And it's pretty humbling to know that like, oh, like I do need to practice. There's no other guitar that I can get.
Right.
Like
there's no better feeling.
Like
guitar.
Obviously there are problems that have specific solutions.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as feeling bad and playing bad.
Yep.
Right. And the only thing that like I think we're doing radically differently in terms of our analog rigs is I kind of engineered mine so that I can also record with it.
Yeah.
With that sort of Capture X.
I just have a mic like a loser.
That's actually cooler than what I'm doing. I just don't have enough room to put a mic in. Like when I'm at my desk, my amp is literally right here.
You could do it.
I could do it, but it'd be too loud.
Yeah.
And also like I use the attenuator on the Capture X.
Okay.
That's what I've been doing. Like I record and I attenuate. That way I can turn my amp very loud.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm talking like 1 PM sort of master volume sort of thing. It's like gig volume, but I just have the attenuator turned on. So my tone doesn't change in my room and on stage.
Right. I mean, you're not pushing all that air, which has a thing.
Yeah, but I'm not miking the cab.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to the load box. With the amp cooking at the same level. That's what I'm talking about. I'm driving the power tubes in a similar way. Because the low end and the brightness changes a little bit depending on like how open the amp is. If you're diming the gain and the master's on like 0.5, like it's obviously not the same.
Yep.
But that's what I've been doing. Not too much new gear, just sort of optimizing little bits, cleaning up signal flow, better cables. That's sort of what I've been doing. It's been working.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have to go do stuff for the band.
Yeah. We have to film things.
We have to go film things. So we're going to wrap this up. We'll see when this comes out. I don't think it'll be too long.
Probably after something drops.
Yeah, we'll probably drop. Here's what, so what do you think? Here's what's about to happen.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick a band name.
Yeah.
Number one. We're going to upload maybe the first couple of tunes to distribution. And then we're going to do band announcement, picture, tease, and then drop the single. That's what's about to happen.
With the video.
Yeah. First single, boom bap, And I'm pretty sure this podcast will have dropped maybe a little bit before that or a little bit after. It'll be part of we'll see when we do with scheduling, but that's what's about to happen. So that's what the cycle is about to look like. So, So
check them out.
Check him out. It's going to be sick. We're really proud of the material and we're really excited to have losers comment that we have no feel on the YouTube video.
Yeah. Too much guitar.
Too much guitar. My name is Joseph Anajar. You can find me on Instagram at Joseph_is_rad. We don't have a band name yet, but I will put it, right here. And thanks for watching and hyped to see you listen to the new tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What's your name?
My name is Joshua De La Victoria. What's up? You can find me on Instagram at Josh Dela, JOSHDELA. And then we'll put our YouTube stuff in the description.
Yeah, man.
And new band, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. Please check it out. Put a lot of work into it. I'm excited for the music.
Same, dude. I'm fucking hyped.
We're trying to make moves.
Yeah, real moves. Still trying to write prog in our bedrooms, but it's this time we're real this time.
We're taking the bedroom prog thing to the highest fucking level as it can possibly go.
Dude, like it's so funny. Sometimes I talk to people that have their shit together way higher than me, and I'm just like teaching them how to do production stuff from my bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.